everybody. I'm Grace Bubeck, and this is the latest of the Living from Love events, live online events. And today I have with me Neelam. Hi, Neelam.
Me there. Hello.
And this is going to be different from the usual type event, which is more a conversation. We've announced this as online satsang with Neelam. So really the main floor is given to Neelam, and I'll just introduce her a little bit, and then I'll hand over to Neelam and we'll take it from there. So Neelam is a direct disciple of Sri Halilal Punja, also known as Papaji in the West, who was a direct disciple of Ramana Maharshi. So Neelam is in that line of teachings that goes back to Ramana Maharshi, and that really is a transmission of stillness that comes out of the stillness of being, and that speaks from that and invites others into it. It's a very direct invitation. So, and those who know Neelam know that the transmission of silence can be very strong when you're with her. So I'm very happy to be doing this for Neelam, and so I won't say much more. I'll just hand over to you, Neelam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Grace, and thank you for hosting us. That's really, really kind and generous of you. So thank you for that.
That's my pleasure.
Yeah. And so, you know, you already introduced me a little bit. I like, these days, I like to do a little bit of introduction of myself. Some people know me, some people don't. I just want to, you know, say a few words about myself and my experience. And I have been teaching or sitting with students in satsang since 1995. And as you said already, you know, I met my teacher, HWL Punja, and also called Papaji, in 1994 in Lucknow. And through his grace, in his presence, I have awakened to the truth of who we really are. And that recognition of presence, that, you know, that has been here since that time, unchanged. However, over the years of sitting with what arises, over the years of really sitting in silence, meeting what is here, and over the years of sitting with students as well, you know, that's kind of sitting here, sitting there. It doesn't really matter, right? In a way. Over the years, there has been an ever-deepening abidance and an ever-deepening embodiment. And so, because sometimes we, you know, we want to be of service, right? We say, how do I help? How can I be of service? And I say, you know, when we sit with what is here, when we really allow what is here to be here, and it's not very glamorous, you know. We sometimes think, wow, you know, I want these expanded states, and I want this, and I want that, and which all of that happens, right? It all happens here in you know, throughout of our experience. You know, different things happen, but that part is not very glamorous, and sometimes we think, oh, you know, what's with that? You know, what's with this sitting here? And I say, that's when we sit here, when we sit with what arises, that really is service. That really is service, and that's how we are of service to everything. To everything and everyone, and that's where service arises from. So, you know, our meeting here today and any other time that we meet together, that is really the result of all that. So I would like to just invite us all to just sit quietly for a moment, quietly, a little bit of a guided meditation also. You can sit with your eyes closed or open, whatever is comfortable for anybody here. So really taking that moment to notice presence, really bring your attention here. And then also taking a moment to notice the sensations of your body. Just the way it's happening right now, whatever is present. And the noticing of sensations is a little different than just noticing the stillness. So bring your attention to that and see what that is like. We notice sensations, in a very simple, practical way without trying to make anything out of it or trying to change it or make it any different. We can also notice how sensation arises in presence. Yeah, and if you have been sitting with your eyes closed, I want you to open your eyes for a moment. Sometimes we have this preference on how we notice presence, and so just sitting here with eyes open, and first of all noticing that presence, our true nature, is already here. That it doesn't really matter, right? Eyes closed or eyes open, or sensations here or no sensation, that it doesn't really matter, that the substratum, the core of everything, our true nature is here already. Yeah, and then also, for this little body mind, and I will talk a little bit more about it, the nervous system and the brain, just taking a look around and really slowly and gently noticing where you are sitting right now. What's here, what's where you are, what's what's around you, you know. Just take that in for a moment. There is this very, you know, natural way that information comes through the eyes into the nervous system and the brain, and this little body mind needs oftentimes the reassurance, you know, of okay, here we are, everything is okay. We can't do it in a mental way. It has to actually happen in a very, you know, visceral, direct way. So just notice, what is it like when you do that? You know, just notice what happens in your body, in your, you know, what is it like to having done that for a moment. Beautiful. Yeah, and then a little back to the sense of presence, you know, just to notice that again. Lovely. It doesn't matter, eyes open, eyes closed. Here we are. Right? Good, good. Beautiful. Yes, lovely. So welcome again, and I see this big smile on Alex's face. Lovely. It's nice to have the visual. So nice to see them. Beautiful. Yeah,
Sorry, I can't help it.
no, of course, natural, right? It's natural, you know. It's just natural here, you know. Here we are. That's how we are, really, really. Yeah, and I wanted to speak a little bit in the beginning today about the core principles of the teaching, but maybe before I go there, just very briefly, you know, I have been working with students in longer programs for a really long time now, and really one of the reasons, you know, why I do that is because it takes time for that transformation to happen. It takes time for that. And even though the recognition of presence is instantaneous, right? When that happens, here it is, that there's no time required for that. And when I first started teaching, I used to just sit with people and just share the direct transmission of that, you know, awakened state. But then eventually at some point I realized that that wasn't enough, that really students will come and they will realize, and then they will just, you know, have some kind of trouble arise, and they will be gone, right, so to speak, gone. And so I realized that there's something else that is needed, and so slowly I developed different ways of inquiry, and then eventually over time I started to work in these ongoing programs, and now in these longer programs where we just really allow the time, you know, the time that it takes for the change of habit, So when I work with students, I'm really interested in spirituality that is embodied. And when I say embodied, I mean a spirituality that recognizes that we live in the body, in the human body. That there's, you know, there's events happening here, right? That we also need, you know, the tools of how to be with that, you know, what to do when that happens. And of course, we always begin with the direct experience of presence, because this is the foundation. And even right now, as you are sitting here, right? Again, we just had our little meditation, but right now in this moment, you can again direct your attention here. You can just notice that presence, beautiful, always here, right? It's just all dependent on our attention. So we begin with this direct experience of presence because, you know, when the mind is still searching, we know all, you know, how much trouble that is, and we also work on these very practical ways. You know, I like to be very practical in the teaching. Like, what does it mean to really be here? How do you do that? You know, we often hear that. Just be here, right? You know, just let yourself be here, right? So what are the skills? What are the steps that we need to be able to do that? So in the process that leads to awakening, and that process begins with the desire for freedom. You know, it begins with that, and then eventually it comes into the recognition of presence, and that desire for freedom, by the way, is what brings us here, right? It brings us here today to sit together. It brings us here into this life. It brings us here. You know, in every moment that there's the willingness to come here and just be here, that's the desire for freedom. So in this process that leads to awakening, we may be going back and forth between recognition of presence. You know, we might have these amazing, you know, moments and powerful states and expansion and realization and insight and, you know, and an awakeness, and then we, you know, we contract back into that sense of individual identity, and so we go back and forth many times. That might happen many times. You know, it can happen for minutes, for days, for lifetimes, right? You know, however long, until eventually there is enough trust. There's enough trust in our own true nature. And that's, by the way, the role of a teacher. You know, a teacher comes in when we still don't have enough trust, right? We don't fully, you know, yet trust what is here. We already know it maybe, or we, you know, even experience it, but we don't fully trust it. And then the role of the teacher is to help us, to point us back, to say, here it is. Look at that. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Until eventually we recognize, you know, we realize there's enough trust to just simply be here. And that moment, you know, is what I call awakening. When there's really this shift, you know, this transition from identifying yourself as this body-mind to knowing that who we are is nothing, right? The spaciousness, is presence. Really knowing that, awakening. So the other area that I work with students when we get together in longer programs, because, you know, sometimes when we meet like this, it's really difficult to convey, you know, everything that happens. You know, we usually go for 6 months or maybe even longer right now. So the other area that we work on together when we get together is to identify and address the tendencies that are. And you know, we can say this life, this incarnation, is really a mixture of the desire for freedom, which, by the way, is such a blessed, you know, birth in a human body, right? To have that desire for freedom. And it's such a rare birth, even though, you know, we often say it's a prerequisite for freedom, right? Even though there's billions of people on the planet right now, and yet if we see, you know, how many beings are incarnated on the planet, then we see, wow, this really is a rare occasion, this human birth, a rare occasion to be here. So it's a mixture, this incarnation of the desire for freedom and the tendencies that bring us here. And when I say, what is a tendency, you know, because when I say tendency, what is the tendency? I would say it's an unconscious movement It's an unconscious movement in which we believe that what we are looking for is not here. In this moment, and that can happen, even after awakening. Sometimes we have this idea, this vision of awakening, that it means that's, the end and nothing ever arises, and that's not really true. That's not necessarily true. Well, it may happen, everything happens, but most of the time that's not what it means. So when a tendency arises, there's this belief in it that what we are looking for is not here. And there's also the belief that we are going to find it somewhere in the future. That there's going to be a situation, that there's going to be a person, that there's going to be a circumstance, or an experience, right? That there's going to be some particular experience that is going to give us what we are looking for. And so that, movement, that momentum has the power to move us from incarnation to incarnation. That belief that there's something, somewhere, sometime. So we take time, to identify some of these tendencies. We take time to address them. And so why, what is the reason that we need a human body for freedom? Why is that? We hear prerequisite, we need the human body. Well, humans are the only species that have intellect, which means the ability to self-reflect. We all know intellect can be a lot of trouble, a lot of challenge, but it also is that facility that allows us to look within. We can self-reflect, we can go in and we can look. And then we also have the nervous system and the brain, and the need for the nervous system and the brain is so that the tendencies, when they arise, that they can be experienced. They can be experienced here. Because, when past arises, we can either suppress it, right, which then goes deeper into the unconscious, the tendencies, often invisible, or we can act upon it, express it, which then means it perpetuates it, it recharges these tendencies. Or we can meet it. We can meet it directly here. We can meet it here, as it arises here. And that's the end of that, that's where it ends, when we meet it here, in this moment. Everything desires to know its true nature, right? When we think about tendencies, they are not something out there. This is just, consciousness misidentifying, right? Consciousness misbelieving, identifying itself as something that it is not. So when we meet it, it has that opportunity, it has the chance to actually know its true nature. Know its true nature. So, just very briefly still, a few words about the core principles of the teaching, just so that, sometimes even the vocabulary is new, like, since I started teaching, there's many ways I would call this, consciousness, space, our natural state, and presence is the word that I use right now. So even just to clarify that. So presence, our true nature, is always here. It's already here. There's nothing we have to do for that. That's the beginning and the middle and the end of all experience that arises here. So, yeah, beautiful. And even in this moment, we can simply notice that, right? Here we are. Here it is. Beautiful. There's nothing we need to do for that. And you know, the common misunderstanding about presence is that we, even after a long time of knowing this, we may still believe that it is something that happened in the future, that happens in the future. Misunderstanding, a common misunderstanding on the spiritual path. Presence is some place that I'm going to get to when I do this and when I do that and when I am like this and when I'm like that. You know? So here we are. Beautiful. We can notice that. And I haven't found anybody yet who doesn't know presence. You see, we just misclassify it, right? You know, everybody knows moments of silence or stillness or love or beauty, right? And yet the mind comes later and says, "Oh, this is such a nice moment," right? Rather than seeing, "Wow, this is you know the magnificence of our being, of our true nature. Here we are." So in these moments when we are at rest here, when we are natural, when we are not struggling or striving for anything, in these moments we also recognize that everything is okay just the way it is. That nothing has to change, that we don't have to be any different, that nothing has to be different in the moment. And when we take this, you know, when we take this recognition, and really if you translate it into your experience, because this may be moments, you know, or hours or days, it depends, right? But even a moment of that recognition, everything is okay just the way it is. If we translate that, you know, we will know that it means you are okay just the way you are already. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to become anything, you don't have to be any different. We also say that means your experience as it arises here, it's different, it's okay as well. Right? It doesn't have to be any different. Which that's maybe the most challenging part, you know, is to know that, right? In a moment when things arise, like, what do you mean, really? This is okay, really? I mean, that would, of course, include, you know, everything and everybody, right? That would include other people and their experience, which relationally, that's not always so easy, right? To really see, wow, this is just the way it is. This is the way it's okay just because it's present, right? Just because it's arising. Of course, that's the whole world. You know, we can include everything that arises here. But of course, we don't want to create, you know, the okayness. We don't want to create a concept or an idea. We don't want to use it to justify things. You know, we don't want to say, well, everything is okay, so that means I can do whatever I want. Right? Everything is okay, that means, you know, no, what we want is we want to recognize, you know, it's such a deep recognition that everything is okay just the way it is, just because it arises here, just because it's present, just because it's here. So when we are not in this, you know, recognition of presence and okayness, then we experience suffering. And when I say suffering, I mean, I don't necessarily mean pain when I say suffering. I don't necessarily mean difficult, challenging circumstances in your life. When I say suffering, I mean a movement away from our true nature. And I also mean an inability to be here in the moment, you know, no matter what arises, right? Things arise, you know, this is life. The circumstances happen, challenges are here. The world goes through whatever it goes through. We go through whatever we go through, right? But in a moment, not to be able to just come and rest in our true nature, and to know in a moment that here we are, no matter what, right? That's what I would call suffering. And then when suffering arises, right, when suffering happens, this is so quickly such a there's such a mechanism of projection, and so before we know, we experience suffering as external in some way. We experience suffering as caused by circumstances. We say we are suffering because this happened, or because that happened, or because this person, or because that event in the world, or because of these things that have arisen within, right? And so if we are not careful, we will go into the story, about it, the interpretation of it, and so on and on and on, and that's we are gone, lost in that. So that's forever, right? The story is forever. So luckily we have this very skillful means that we call inquiry, and that is to change the direction of our looking. To instead of looking out there, or looking into your own experience in a way of what's wrong here, to really look within and to meet this movement away from our true nature. That's what inquiry is. That's such a gift of Ramana, right? This life, the amazing blessing, Ramana and his realization and his teaching and his transmission and his the simple teaching of who am I? Look at where the I is arising from. Look at that. So freedom is our birthright. That's what we come here for. That's what we want. That's what we ultimately desire. If we realize that or not, that's what we really, really want in every moment. Interesting it is that no matter what is happening in your life, no matter what are the tendencies that arise, no matter what are the situations that happen, in every moment, actually, in a strange way, there's a desire for peace. Right? It's just that often the desire is caught in the misunderstanding that peace comes from something. It comes from an object, it comes from a person, it comes from an experience, it comes from something. And rather than recognizing peace is already here, that's what we want. Right? We want to know that. So when I say freedom, I mean an independence from the past. I don't necessarily mean the end of all arising. Sometimes we have this misunderstanding too, that freedom means nothing ever happens. And when I say an independence from the past, I mean in a moment to discriminate, in a moment to have the willingness to see when past arises here. Just to notice it for what it really is. And to wait here. And to wait here and see. And wait until we really come back to rest. Is it a minute, a day, or a month, or a year, or whatever it takes. And then see what arises here, if there is anything that arises. And only then to move with that, to move from that. Okay, so that's the short that's the really short version of everything. And maybe we can open it to questions. Yes, if anybody wants to speak, we can do that.
Yes. So, Neelam, maybe I'll just quickly mention to people. So you can ask a question on the YouTube thread. I will look at that at some point. Or you can ask a question by coming onto the Google Hangout. And right now there are 3 people on. I'm assuming that if you're on the Hangout, you actually really want to ask a question.
Okay.
So if you're just watching, please watch on YouTube. Use the YouTube link for that. Okay. So maybe we'll just start with Neelam. Is there somebody that you would like to start with?
Well, I see a picture here. Anneke.
Yes, let's start with Anneke. So Anneke, you need to unmute yourself. Oh, hold on, let me unmute her.
No.
Okay,
can you hear me now?
You're on. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
So Neelam, just to say that if you click on Anneke's little thumbnail, you'll get her on your large screen, so you can talk to her directly.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hello, Neelam.
How are you?
I can't. Oh yeah, I see Grace now. Okay, just 1 second. I see. Yeah, here you are.
Yeah, there we go. Hi.
Okay. First of all, thank you. Can you hear me, Neelam?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, okay, because I see someone else's picture. Okay. First of all, thank you for this beautiful introduction. I mean, it really resonates and sort of gives words to how I see and feel it right now, even though there are some things I would like to address. I'm from Holland, so my English might not be totally comprehensible, but okay.
Your English is good.
Okay, good. Maybe it's important for me to sketch a little bit where I'm at. I've been running all my life, running away from the confrontation with death. That is because as a child, before I was 6 years old, I have been suffocating nearly from whoopee cough, like sometimes even 20 times a night, and my parents had to rescue me. I nearly drowned when I was 4, and our whole family nearly went down on a ship in a hurricane on our way to the USA.
Can we just, Anneke, can we just slow it down a little bit right now?
Sure.
Can we just slow it down and just take a moment before you go on?
Yeah.
I want to hear what you are saying, but just take a moment and just notice, you know, your body and you sitting here. Just take a moment for that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, good.
I'm here.
Because there's already the content that is present, and you know that's what we want. We want to sit.
Yeah.
The mind, you know, wants to rush, you know, go quickly, and let's take a moment here. Let's see. You know, let's just see what happens when you just sit here for a moment. Good, beautiful, sweetheart, beautiful. And so what happens when you slow it down? You know, and again, I want to hear, you know, what happens?
It's great actually, because when I started telling about my past, now when you stopped me, I all of a sudden realized that it went to my throat, and when you stopped me, I was here again.
Yes, beautiful.
It's gone.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we also want, you know, because this little body mind, the nervous system and the brain, it has its own, you know, ways in which it works. We want to respect that, right? because otherwise, it's, you know, we just get a sense of overwhelm, you know. So it's good to just slow it down and let it process it a little bit, you know, because otherwise, yeah, otherwise it's just a little too much. Good, good. So it's gone. Beautiful. Go on. Let's talk some more.
But it's okay to continue what I was explaining. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. When I nearly drowned when I was 4.5 years old, that was my first experience of me being this presence, me being the endless, limitless love, while that little body was trying to get air. And when the body would surface, then I was in the body again. So that was the first time that I recognized that I'm not the body, but it was not in an aware way.
Right, right, of course, of course.
And then during my life, there has been
anybody to tell you also, you know, that that's who you are, right? There wasn't anybody to say, oh yeah, that's what it is, right?
No, no, no. So during my life, so to say, that was actually, those moments were really physical, near suffocations. And then during my life, this very sensitive person that Anne is also was suffocated by her upbringing, so to say. So I have had my challenges through life. Then later on, 2 husbands died. So death has been with me in all kinds of forms, literally and figuratively. And after I was pointed to non-duality, I started to recognize that the drowning actually showed me what I really am.
Right, right, of course.
And but there, even though I had recognized the presence and limitlessness, and that even my body is that same vibration and field, the unreal strong tendency to get away from that presence made my body contract, a lot of physical pain, tightness in the neck and in the shoulders, and that's still the same. But very recently I realized it was all circling around mistrust of life, because the same life that I am is also the same life that can make this body suffocate and die.
Right. So here is where it is, right? We can either, and I don't mean to, you know, minimize your experience, right?
No, I want to hear it. Yeah.
Because you know, we all go through stuff, and that's our history, and we don't want to minimize that or deny that or negate that.
No. I can.
We can either live in the history of that, we can live in the story of that, we can live in the description of that, we can live in the understanding of it, or we can meet it directly as it arises in the moment in your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So even though all these events happened, you know, they are not here anymore, and yet there is still what is the residue of it is still what remains in your body and mind, right? How your nervous system, how your brain, how the different tendencies, it doesn't really matter how they really interact, and what really is your experience in the moment because of that, right? And that's the only thing we really have, you see. We don't have the past, meaning we can't go back there anymore. We can't fix it or change it or make it any different.
No.
Anything, you know, done over there, right? So we can't do that. We have to forget about that. We don't have the future either, see? Because you know what I mean? Anything could happen in this moment, and that's it. You know, like we kind of think like there's future, but that's just our mind projection, right? Time, space projection, right? So what we really have in this moment is we have your experience as it is arising here. As it is here in this moment. That's all we have. And we can either be present to that. We can either meet this experience the way it is, or we can avoid that. That's the only choice we have. Beautiful, beautiful. So in this moment, and this is where, you know, because what you are describing is just a lot of trauma, a lot of challenging experiences, you know, a lot of challenge. So, so we want to go really slow, but as you're sitting here, Anneke, as you're sitting here with your eyes open, sweetheart, again, just ease a little bit into noticing the sensation of your body as it is. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, lovely. Just take a moment for that, you know, just there. Lovely, lovely. So in this moment, sweetheart, as you are sitting here in this moment, and when you are just easing in like this for a moment, and with your eyes open, I want your eyes open because, you know, when there's a lot of trauma and we close our eyes, we can just go back into the unconscious kind of pool of that. So when you ease in like that for a moment, sweetheart, is that okay right now to be here like this? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
beautiful. That's what I call being present, right? So notice that. Notice that. Lovely, lovely, beautiful. And you see, in any moment we have that choice, so to speak. We can either do this, you see. We can either come back and really meet our experience as it is here in the moment, or we can move away from that. And you know, going into the mental or intellectual description of events, and again, not to judge your own story, because we want the history to be here. We don't want to deny it, right? But the moment you move into me or anybody, we move into the thinking, we are moving away from that.
Yeah.
We are moving away from that.
Yeah, what is beautiful about that, when you bring me to the present, I have already for so long wondered, is it okay to drop it all? To just drop it here and now?
Of course.
Because when you brought me here and you said, I don't need to bother about the past, not think why is the contraction present,
Exactly.
just be here and present. What a relief and a freedom that is.
Yes, of course, beautiful.
Wow, that's great.
There we go, right? Lovely, lovely. So that's what you want, right?
Yeah, but I never, it was never point so an experience so literally.
Exactly.
And the weird thing is that today I'm writing a book of love, so with my considerations in total honesty, and it says, I wished somebody would give me permission to drop it all. And here you go.
There we go. Just this moment, right? Here we are. We can just be here, drop it all, right? Lovely. Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely, beautiful, beautiful. So yes. And before we finish, just notice that again, because it's lovely, beautiful. See right here, this very moment.
I can do that.
Anybody can do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Anybody can do it. You see, anybody. It's just we don't know. Sometimes we need somebody to tell us, oh, that's where it is. Okay, that's good.
Well, I knew what it was to rest in and as presence, but it was as if I missed the bridge with the right now, here, and the moment as it is.
Yes, of course.
That's great.
Of course, lovely, lovely. And that's why, you know, when I teach, and especially when I teach the inquiry, I talk so much about sensations in the body, because when we come, when we step out of the mental, and even the emotional, because sometimes the emotional can be so volatile too, when we just step for a moment into the sensation,
Yeah.
the mind just gets enough rest for a moment to simply drop, and come back and just be here. So
Yeah, and I'm a high sensitive person, so I already have a lot of things going on. So this is great.
exactly, lovely. So like
Thank
that,
you.
is what
Great.
you say. Would you be willing to do it like that? Would you be willing to do it like that? And
For now or for any time?
anytime. Yes,
Yeah, sure.
of course, of
I
course.
feel the relief
Lovely, lovely.
when the rest, can be left.
Exactly. There we go. There we are. There we are. Beautiful.
Great. Thanks a lot, Neelam.
Lovely. I'm glad you are here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good, good. So shall we try somebody else here on this? Whoever is here.
Yes, go ahead, Neelam, and just to ask Annika to mute herself again, or I can do it also.
You will do that? Yeah, okay.
I'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
Lovely. Then we have Cecilia, if I'm pronouncing the name right. Is that it?
Yes. Let's see whether she's here.
If not, there's somebody else here that I don't know the name of, though.
Hello, Cecilia. Are you around?
Sure.
You know what, Neelam? Sometimes people just watch on the Hangout and they're not even there. So I think Cecilia is one of those people who are not there.
Anybody else? Who else is there? Who else do you see on the Hangout?
Well, you said there was somebody who you didn't know. That's Ashil. Ashil, would you like to ask a question?
Hello?
Let me see. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Ashil.
Okay, let me just click here.
We don't hear you yet, Ashil. Hold on. There's something. I think your mic is not working, Ashil, because you're unmuted, but we don't hear you. We can't hear you, unfortunately. What you could try is leave the Hangout and come back on again, and see whether whether that solves the problem. Yeah, Neelam, that's what happens sometimes. So we'll just see.
Yeah, we'll just see. We'll just see what happens.
Yes, maybe what I'll do is I'll take a moment to look at the YouTube comments and to see whether there's any question there. So let me see. There's a lot of comments.
Hello, hello.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Yes.
It actually worked.
Hold on. Okay, so let me switch to Ashil. Ashil, go ahead.
Hi.
It's good to see you again. You maybe recognize me, but it's maybe been 15, 20 years in the Bay Area, a long time ago.
I'm kind of remembering a little bit now. Yes, yes.
Okay. So you're pointing to, in the talk that you gave at the beginning and some of the other interaction, I feel almost in some way as if I'm two different people. Like there's times when I feel very there are periods of time, sometimes extended, sometimes just hours, sometimes days, where it's a different state of being, and then there's then back to a shield again. And you spoke something about earlier. I didn't understand the word you were using. Something like gathering enough shock or something, or I don't remember. I couldn't quite tell the word. Anyway, it comes this state of presence of what I experience as a different state of being, comes and goes, comes and goes.
Right. That's what you think. It comes and goes. I understand, but first things first. So you say there is this expansion and there is this, like a different experience or different state of being, and then you come back to this, right? A shield. You come back, and the first question I have for you is that okay?
Yes.
Are you really? No. Examine that for a moment. Are you really okay with that when that happens? Are you really okay with that?
I think I'm okay with it, and then the mind comes in and thinks that maybe something should be different, something should be consistent, somehow, like I've experienced you, I've experienced various friends who I knew, like Gangaji, before she went to hang out with Papaji and woke up, and then she came back and something was different, and this seems consistent or accessible.
I understand, but so when you say I'm okay, but then I would say then you are not okay.
Okay.
Because the okayness, when I use that question of okayness, there's only two answers, and I don't care which one it is, but there's only yes or no.
Oh.
There's no like yes but. There's no such an answer. You see. So if you say you are okay, but the mind thinks, then I would say somewhere you're not okay with it. See? It's not okay for you that it's happening like that. See? Otherwise, we wouldn't have this conversation. Right? If you were really, and I don't mean it in a judgmental way. I mean it in a real way. If you were really okay with it. Right? If you were totally at rest with it, we wouldn't even talk about it. So somewhere you're not okay with it the way it happens. Do you agree or no? Or do we have a disagreement?
Well, I'm looking for that, and I hear you, and
when that state ends, and then a shield is back, are you like totally okay with it? Are you like saying, wow, that's great, that's awesome, that's like lovely, wow, right on? Is that what you say or no? Yeah.
I think I go to the mind and wonder if there's something I missed or something.
Exactly. Exactly. So
wonder if there's something. Yeah, I wonder if this is it.
Exactly.
Or maybe there's something I'm missing, something that I haven't gotten yet, or something like that. It's the same question I hung out with you 20 years ago.
Exactly. And so there's a sense of wrongness there. Something is not right, you see. Something is not right. And that sense of wrongness or that not okayness, that's what I call suffering. So suffering is not here because that stage changes into this state. That's not what causes suffering. See? What causes suffering is our not okayness with it. The moment you say, why is this here? It should be different. Now the thing is, Shield, is that you're thinking about it right now. You see? I want you to just look for a moment. Just take a moment and really, within yourself, examine that place in which you believe that something has to be different. That what happens, that how it changes from that expansion to this just ordinary Shield, thing, that somehow is not, is not quite good enough. It's not quite good.
It seems maybe there's what you're describing as suffering is somehow hanging on to some idea that it's going to look different.
Exactly. That it's supposed to, not only that it's going to, but it's supposed to. It accordingly to this and that, accordingly to what you have read and what you have learned and what everybody else says, it's supposed to look different, you see?
So this is it.
Whoa. And it doesn't. It doesn't look different, you see? It just doesn't.
You spoke to that earlier. You said, people have this idea or something. But, so then the coming and going of states of periods of lucidity or energy that just comes and goes.
Exactly. That's your states. They are called states. That's why they are called states. They come and go. Beautiful.
It makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. And what you really need to examine, though, is that not okayness that arises. That's why I'm so adamant about it, because we like to deny it. We are not okay with something and then we deny it. We say, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." That's where you need to go. Beautiful. That's what you need to meet, because that's the only reason why you're suffering. You're not suffering because the states are changing. That's just normal, That's what normally happens all the time, you see. That's what happens for everybody. The only reason you're suffering is because somewhere you're not okay with it, you see. And that's the only place that you can actually be in, that you can actually meet. That's the only place. You see. Beautiful. Because when you come to meet that is what changes your perception. You see. Otherwise, your perception is always going to be geared towards what's supposed to be. And that not okayness started so long ago. You see, and we just want to meet it kindly and gently meet it.
And I'm not aware some more, like I have this idea that this isn't it, that there's something that I need to get to this beyond this other than just this.
No, I know, and that's a story. It's a good one, right? But when you sit with that not okayness for a moment, Ashil, when you sit with that, then what happens? When you just sit with it for a moment, like you did a minute ago, what happens then? Just notice. This is not a trick question. This is just I'm curious about your experience. Just notice what is here.
If I'm just here, everything's just fine.
Exactly. Beautiful. That's exactly how it is. You see. Everything is just fine.
I guess in a certain way, it's only this concept that stands You now.
Exactly. That's only an idea. It's supposed to be this way, or it's supposed to be that way, or this is not happening, or whatever, right? It's only an idea. Lovely, lovely. So just notice that okayness again. Right? Just notice that.
But I'm not in that idea. It's more than okay. It's actually quite wonderful.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Raise
Yeah.
life.
Yes. 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 I call it okay for simplicity, because otherwise I will have to talk so much, about it, right? So I just say okay. Keep it simple. Beautiful, beautiful. So let's just sit here for a moment. Let's hang out here for a moment. Good, good, beautiful. So what do you say, sweetheart? Is that good? Do you think? Yes.
Thank you very much.
Is that what you want? Yes, of course.
Yeah. I see that it's just getting lost in the mind.
Yes, yes.
Yes. And there's that.
But the reason you get lost is because you don't meet that not okayness. The reason you get lost is because you don't meet your own dissatisfaction. Like, what is this? Why is this gone? And when you meet it, that's the end of that. That's the end of the story, right? Good, good, beautiful, lovely. Yes. Yes, thank you for that. Is that what you think? Is that good? Yes?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Anybody else here that would like to speak or ask a question? Anybody else?
Yes, so Neelam, there are two people, Susan and Amy, on the Hangout.
I know them both. I know them.
Yes. So if either of you would like to ask a question, could you just signal yeah? Okay, so I'll unmute you, Amy. Okay, go ahead, Amy.
Hi, Neelam.
Hi.
Thank you. Oh, okay. The two words that come to me are practical application of this. Sometimes when I hear that things don't need to be different, and I know that on the relative level things need attention, there's a conflict there. So I sense what you're talking about with in the moment, coming to this recognition of whether it's okay or it's not. I feel like that's the heart of it all. And yet, what about those times when things need to change on that relative level?
So, change is part of life, and it's going to happen, right? So when I speak about okayness, and I really spoke in a very, very, very brief way today. So, often when I speak about it more in depth, I say, change. Of course, okayness doesn't exclude change, right? It doesn't mean change is not going to happen. But now the question is where is the change, coming from? Right? Where is the change coming from? So when I was talking earlier about tendencies, and when I was talking earlier about, the past that arises here, and when past is present, which is reactivity, which is conflict, which is challenge, right? When that past is present, then most of the time we are engaged in that. So the change that happens from that, you see, or the change that we think about when we are engaged in the past, that's often a change that is part of the past also. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it's almost a way of perpetuation or compounding it, sort of.
Exactly. It's not a real change, right? I mean, we will change. We can go, wow, I don't want this, and I don't want that, and get away from this. And sometimes, though, because I exaggerate, but sometimes that is the real momentum, though. You see, sometimes that is the real thing, right? So we need to recognize, though, when I say everything is okay the way it is, I mean your experience, the way it arises, is okay. Can you really, in the moment, because you see, we have habits, we suppress things, we manipulate our own inner experience, we kind of have, social conditioning or our upbringing or whatever. So when that movement arises for you, whatever it is, which is a natural movement, it's like, whoa, can't really go there, right? So your experience, the way it is okay. So when your experience arises, when it's present, then what is the movement in that? In the moment. What is the movement?
Well, just as you described, it's either...
Exactly, yeah.
It's, either avoid or perpetuate or come to attend to it and come to rest through noticing and being able to, willing to be with it.
Exactly. And in order to be with it, in certain situations, we have to put the situation aside. Right. Sometimes it's just a mental putting aside, like, okay, enough of attention out there. Let's bring attention in here, right? But sometimes we physically have to remove ourselves from certain situations because in it, there's just perpetuation that happens. We just go back and forth and we repeat the same habit over and over and over and over again. Right? So we sometimes have to remove ourselves from it until we find enough strength within, in it, right?
Yes.
To really come back to rest, right? And then to come from there, that's discrimination, right?
Yes.
Discrimination that says, whoa, wait a minute, this is just a movement that is a movement of the past. Right? If you keep going with it like this just repeats itself, it just perpetuates, it creates more of the same. Right? And we can just remove ourselves from, either mentally or physically from the situation, and then can I be here?
Yeah, that helps, because I think I have fallen to the idea over the years, kind of following this path is kind of like as Sheila was talking about, and almost feeling like, I should be able to just do this in any setting, at any time, and like the reality is that we may need actual literal space to be able to attend to what's arising. Okay.
And then, sometimes, eventually, at some time, we may be, like Papaji used to say, if you're learning meditation, choose a neighborhood that is quiet. Choose a place where you can really quietly sit. Choose circumstances that would support that. And then eventually, maybe you can sit in the middle of the busiest crossing in Lucknow and just be in meditation, But it's not where you start, right? Mm-hmm. So you do whatever is needed. You see, if we say peace first or freedom first, then we say, whoa, wait a minute, I can do it here, like this. Let me just take the time. And it's not, relationally, it's not rejection. It's not, wow, I don't want to deal with that. It's wait a minute, I need to be able to have the time so that I can come back here.
Yeah.
So I can really see what is the movement here. You see? And that might be a day, a minute, a year, or a lifetime. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to come to rest, to meet it here is what that movement is in me.
Because then we begin to separate between what is really the past here and what is the interaction with the other. Like this, it all happens as one, you know.
Yeah.
Past arises here, the past arises there. Two, you know, nervous systems that are in survival trying to have a conversation. Really? No, it's just survival. This is just all that's happening, right?
Yeah.
It's not possible, you know. Nobody's going to figure anything out. It's not possible. So we have to recognize that, and we have to say, whoa, wait a minute. When I meet it here first, then I can see what's the past that arises here, and then, you know, what is the interaction with the other? What are the boundaries that need to be set? What are the things that need to be communicated? What are the, you know, challenges that are there? What needs to be addressed? But then the conversation is a conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's not anymore. But you see, both have to be present for that.
Yeah.
Both are just in survival and triggered, you know. Well, that's all we get, you know, survival, right?
Yes.
It's past.
Okay. That's helpful. As always, thank you.
And the challenge is, you know, for you, for me, or for anybody, because we all go through it, the challenge is that connection feels nice. Being connected even when things are challenging. Sometimes wanting to connect out there is stronger than wanting to be here. See? And so we remain in that sense of connection out there, though, rather than in a sense of connection here. Finding that connection, so know that it's already here, it's already here, it's already here. It's a different way of being in the world then, right?
Yes. Yes.
Good, good. Beautiful, Amy. What do you say? So what is that good?
That's good. Thank you.
It's coming back here.
Okay.
Let's just take a moment here then, just a moment. Beautiful, beautiful, because is anything needed here? You see, is anything needed? Is anything needed?
Just to be here. Mm-hmm. Just to meet it here. Yeah.
First, that's not all. Sometimes we get stuck, you know, in this dual, non-dual, or dual, non-dual, you know, and then we go, well, it's just about being here. Well, it's about being here, and then it's about being there too, but first things first, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's about both, but it's not about this one first. It's about being here. It's
Yes.
going on okay. First, and then.
Mm-hmm. It helps to, like you said, with that discernment about where the action is coming from. You know, if I'm coming within first, then I can tend to what's here inside me and then move from there, versus just that grasping.
Yes, of course, I want it out there. I want it to work, but it's not.
Right? Yeah. Much more of service.
It's not
Coming here first.
for everyone. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good, beautiful, lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is that good, Amy? Yes.
It's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see somebody else came on to the Hangout.
Yes, there's actually Rami's joining us from Finland. So Rami, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself. Neelam, I'd like to just take a moment to look at the YouTube thread just to see whether there's any questions there, and that gives Rami the time to arrive here also and unmute himself.
Of course.
So I'm just going to do that now. Okay.
Hello.
Rami, just give us a little question. The little time we hear you. I'm just looking at the YouTube thread to see whether there are any questions there.
This is so fun, you know, to actually see people.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And just to let you know, there's people from there's Ramat from Wales in the UK. There's Tejo Maya from Quebec City in Canada. There's Susan Owen from Roanoke, Virginia. Jennifer Birch, don't know where she's from. Ivana from Vancouver, Canada. Mary from Henderson, NV, not sure what that is. So there's one question. Isn't moving away and going into thoughts also a part of it all too? How can we deny this part too? Who is it who gives up the story?
Well, let's go a little slower. Let's start with the first two, and then let's add this. Who is it that gives up the story? Is it moving away? Say that again. Is it moving away from thought?
Isn't moving away and going into thoughts, isn't that also a part of it all too?
Of course. Yes.
So the second question was, how can we deny this part too?
Well, we are not. Who is? Is anybody denying it? I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is, but...
Yes, I think it may have just been a misunderstanding. So the last question, sorry.
It's a misunderstanding, or it's an idea. Somebody already has an idea that we are denying it. No, we are not denying it. No, it all arises here. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody at any point has denied anything.
Yes. So this person changing ears or changing gears keeps asking, so who is the judge of what is okay? Who is this? Is it the mind or something else? I can't
have that conversation because I would need to really address the person, right? Because otherwise we are just doing a kind of hypothetical conversation, you know, it's more like concepts, and I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in meeting, and I'm interested in meeting what is here very, very directly. So it's, you know, this is just, you know, it sounds good, it's theoretical, you know, but let's meet. You know, if this person is here, let's meet and let's have a conversation, because then we can just go very, very directly, you know, what is this? What is this really? What is the question about? Like, my question to that person is, do you really have a question? And if you do, let's get at it. You see, let's not just talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you suggesting, Neelam, are you suggesting that this person come onto the Hangout to ask them questions?
Sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet.
Okay, so changing gears. If you can come onto the Hangout, please do. And the question was, what's really your question?
Yes, what is your question? What is it that you really want to know? Because I'm here for that, you see. I'm not here to just have a kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So, so there's Ekodar also, who asks, Papaji said that for a particular person, that of the quiet place comes to mind. I'm not sure what he's asking there. That for a particular person, that of the quiet place comes to mind, as I remember the video. Does this make sense to you, Neelam?
No, not really.
No, doesn't make sense to me either. So maybe you just you could ask back.
Somebody could tell us more what they really mean, you know, which I would be happy to hear, of course, more.
Yeah. Okay. So you know the the thing is, once we get into the direct exchange on Hangout, you know, the questions on YouTube just start sounding very dry.
Well, it's okay. You know, we just do the best we can, right? We are just really doing the best we can here, you know. So we can try, you know.
So just to suggest that the two people who ask questions, if you can, either come onto the Hangout or ask back on YouTube. So changing gears is actually asking back. He says, who comes to the clarity to know what is right? Are these two?
Say that again, who comes to the clarity of what is right?
Who comes to the clarity to know what is right? Are these two?
What does it mean, are these two? You see, that's why we would need to speak directly. I would need to speak with the person, right? Because we can always say presence comes to clarity. But I can also say you come to clarity. If you are here, if there is a sense of you here, if you are engaged with something, then I can say you come to clarity. So that's why it's a real conversation, right? Because it's not a theoretical thing, right? We can always say presence comes to clarity, but if you are engaged, if you are here, if the I is here and there is an engagement with what arises here, then you come to clarity. See? You have to recognize, oh, I'm engaged, and then it's over. You see? So, you know, there's somebody keeps coming and going, you know, he was already back and he was already gone. But
Yes, I know Rami is trying to get back on. So Rami, just keep trying so you can ask.
Going back to that question, but that's the simplicity of it. If somebody is here, if there is a sense of me, if there is that contraction around any particular experience, then you are coming to clarity. If there isn't, then presence is, of course. Who else? Yeah, and you see the mind can't understand that because it can only be experienced directly. How all of that happens here all at the same time. It can only be experienced, you know, can't be understood. You know, the mind just doesn't go there. Right? Good. Let's see, because who was trying to get on this hangout here?
Yes, unfortunately, he's disappeared again. He probably has trouble connecting. So until he comes back on,
let's see if there's anything else on that. You know what you are.
Yeah. So. This is the question about the quiet space.
Okay.
He's coming back to say, I meant I had to meditate in the space I have, quiet or not. So I think the question is about, the circumstances. I mean, are they important? Is it important that in order to meditate there's a quiet space, or is it also possible to meditate when, or to be present when it's not quiet?
Of course it's possible. But that's not what I was saying to Amy, right? That's why it's challenging, because sometimes I say things that are very particularly meant for a particular person. And what I was saying is that if there is a choice, if somebody is thinking about where am I going to go to learn to meditate, then the best choice would be to go somewhere where the circumstances are supportive of that, right? It doesn't mean that it's not possible to meditate when it doesn't mean that it's not possible to meditate when it's noisy. Of course it is. But what I was trying to say in this particular, case with Amy is that, when there's a lot of reactivity in your life, if you are in a relationship that experiences extreme reactivity, then sometimes the better choice is to take a break from that and to create the space so that there's enough time for everybody to come back to rest in their own true nature. Sometimes it's not possible in the midst of this, engagement to do that, right? And that what I was also saying is that especially in the beginning, when we are unlearning these patterns, that's what I mean by beginning, when we are unlearning these patterns, right? That in that time, it may be helpful to just take time out, not to engage. Right? Because we know that the moment we engage, that habit is so strong that we're just going to go with the habitual force. We are not going to really remain here, right? So that's what I was saying, that's what I was telling her, was if there is a possibility to take the time out to just do that. So, because when we can say, whoa, not right now, or let me just sleep on this, or let me just see, what I think about that, right? When we can do that, then we can really create the time to come back to rest, rather than just engage from habit, and that's what I was speaking about. So is it possible to meditate in the middle of Shalimar crossing, the busiest crossing in Lucknow? Of course it is. That wasn't really the question, right? The question was, in your life, in a moment when things are extremely challenging and you can't find that place of stillness, then do whatever is needed so that you can, even if it means remove yourself from a circumstance. That's what I was referring to, So.
Yes, and I think the Ekodas question was more literal about the space in which he meditates. It seems to be that his space is not very quiet, but I think your answer
yes, of course,
is valid for that too. Then, he may need to find a space that is quiet. Exactly. Reminds me of when I used to live in a very noisy apartment. I just made arrangements with the local Catholic Church that I could go there when I needed to be quiet.
It's hard, right? And then eventually that becomes the stronger momentum. And when it becomes the stronger momentum, then it doesn't matter anymore where we sit, right? We can sit.
Yes. So there's more questions on the YouTube thread, but I'm just going to ask one more, which I'm not sure what you'll make of it, Neelam. Cecilia asks, can you ask Neelam to show me God?
And who is Cecilia? Where is she from? Cecilia, where are you?
Cecilia Diaz. She's on the YouTube thread. She's not on the Hangout.
Okay, and do we know where she's from? Like where she lives, or where is she coming to YouTube? from?
No, there's no information about that, Neelam.
Yeah, well, God is not an object, Cecilia, so I can't show you God because God is not a thing. Right? However, as we have been seeing here, in the satsang so far, we can directly experience the truth of who we are. That can be known directly to you right now in this moment. And you can do that. All it takes is to turn your attention towards that. Right? Habitually, our attention is turned towards objects or ideas. Even God, can become an idea and an object, something out there, right? Or something in the future, someday we are going to see that or we are going to experience that, right? So because, God is not an object, the truth is not an object, that's not going to happen. We can have visions of God and then they will appear and disappear, right? We want something that is permanent, and what is permanent is already here. And in this moment, Cecilia, wherever you are, you can, beautiful, you can turn your attention towards the inner, on the inner. And here we are, you see. Peace or love or presence, or whatever you're looking for is already here. Good, good. So just do that for a moment, you see. Just do that for a moment. And then let's see what happens. That is the confirmation.
That's my cat.
I know, it's good. They like that. They like the energy. Good. Yes, anybody else? Was there anything else?
So, Neelam, it looks as if Rami can't make it back on. There's one more question on the YouTube.
Does he want to ask his question over YouTube, or?
Yes, you could. If Rami, if you can't get back on, put your question onto the YouTube thread. And there's another question from Amy on the YouTube thread. Can I read that one out to you?
Okay.
It says, Neelam, how do you address the need for a sound mind to interact with non-dual teachings? I wonder about people who are mentally or emotionally struggling and how teachings may be confusing.
That's kind of a bigger conversation, right? Because for the mind in general, the teaching can be confusing, right? And especially if somebody has some kind of disturbance on the mental or emotional level, that can be even more challenging. It's like that for all of us, really, in the beginning, truthfully, right? Truthfully, we all experience challenge with like, what? Are you kidding me? Everything is okay? Or whatever it is that we are going like, really, until we have our own direct experience, right? And this is where, I know for a fact that everybody can experience it, right? That everybody can know it. And so maybe the mind that is disturbed or the emotions that are disturbed, maybe they can't follow that knowing. Maybe they can't really, grasp it mentally, right? Or in some emotionally. Maybe it really can't be grasped, but it can be known. It can be experienced. Everybody responds to love and kindness and presence. So it can't, that on that level it can be known. Is it going to be realized consciously? We don't know that. That really, I would say, is from case to case. I have seen people that were mentally ill, that were on medication, and that had a very strong, powerful recognition of presence. I have also seen people that had mental disturbance and they were not able to drop out of the loop of the mind enough to really notice their very own direct experience, right? But again, even the people that were, in the disturbance, they will feel drawn to satsang, right? They will feel drawn to presence. They will feel drawn to being in that environment. So again, we never know when things work. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's not in our control. That's not in anybody's, control to know. So we just do the best we can, which is we share or we are here, and that's all we can do. We can't guarantee, the result, if somebody's going to, if the mind is going to follow or not, but we know for sure that it can be known. That's for sure. And I know that. When I was shortly after I was with Papaji, maybe a year after when I was first teaching, and I went to India with a group of people, and we went to Rishikesh, and we were staying in this little ashram, and we had satsang every day, and we had this space set up outside under a mango tree. There was a mango grove, actually, and we had this space set up so we could sit and do satsang. And there was a little village a little farther away, and every morning there would be a dog that would come, and it had to walk on this really skinny kind of stone, wall, and it will walk, and it will come down, and it will come into satsang, and it will just come to front and sit right in front of me, lie down, and just spend about half hour or however long, and then it will just get up and go, and do its own thing. So like this, I would say, it works. Can we always say it's going to be understood or mentally realized? No, we can't always say that.
Thank you, Neelam. And actually, Rami is changing gears on the YouTube thread, and he says he's having technical problems. So looks like he's not going to get his question answered today.
Good, beautiful. So, anything else? Anybody else? Anything else? What do you think?
Renier says he's from Belgium. He just wanted to say what's still amazing to my mind is, can it be so simple? It's touching me, he says.
Beautiful. Of course. Of course, naturally. And I always say very, very simple, but not easy. It's not always easy, but it is so absolutely simple. Beautiful.
Yes. So Neelam, I think we're kind of coming to an end here.
That's good.
Oh dear. Okay. There's one more question on the YouTube thread. Are you still okay to continue with that, Neelam?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So Ramdas asks, what to do to be okay with oneself and with what one feels?
So that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. You can't do okayness. You can't do anything to be okay with yourself and what you feel. However, because okayness is natural, right? It's a natural state. It's not something that we really do. However, you can come and notice your own experience the way it is in the moment. And that's why, I speak a lot about sensations in the body, You can use the sensation as a gateway to presence, as a way of coming to notice what is here. And if you are not okay with what is here, that's the process of inquiry that I teach. The question, is it okay, is part of that inquiry. If what is here is not okay, then you can just notice that. You can begin with how not okay you are with what is here. You can begin with that. And when you begin with that, and try that right now, Ramdas, you try that, right now, you just come to your experience the way it is. And just notice it and just say, is it okay? Is it okay like this? And if it's okay, let's just sit here. If it's not okay, then let's notice that not okayness. Let's really, really sense it. Let's sense it, and let's just hang out here for a moment. Beautiful. Beautiful, because that's the beginning of being present. You see, we kind of twist ourselves in these little knots. We don't want this to be here, but we say it's okay. But we really need to come to honesty and reality of our own experience. How is it? Simplicity. Am I at rest or am I suffering? Is suffering here or is presence here? Is okayness here? Is not okayness? It's just beautiful. It's just simple discrimination. That's what I'm speaking of. Freedom means a willingness to discriminate. What is here? And if it's not okay, can I be here? We are not going to try to make it okay, but let's be here. Let's see what happens. Because that's the beginning of being present. Good. Lovely.
So Neelam, I think we'll try and catch Rami as long as he's on, and then I suggest we'll make that the last question, as we're coming up to the hour already.
Yes.
So Rami, I'm going to unmute yourself. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey. Hello, Neelam.
Hi there.
I have a question that how can I not lose myself in others? I mean, I so easily attach myself to others, or then I change my behavior because I think that it would suit the moment or people better. So.
Do you know why? Do you know how come you do that? Do you know why that's what's happening for you? Do you know? What's the reason, Rami, do you think?
I somehow feel I'm responsible for the happiness of people around me.
Okay.
I know that's one reason, and one is that I attach myself to people and try to hold on to them, so I feel safe somehow.
Right, of course. So beautiful. We feel responsible, which is something of your past, right? That's something that must have happened in your past. Yes, and then when you attach yourself to somebody, you also feel safe. So that's, again, must have been something that happened in the past. That was your experience, sometime, somewhere in the past. So, in general, I would say the reason why we lose ourselves in others is love and survival. Right? We don't find the sense of love within. We don't find that what we are looking for, which really is love, obviously, ultimately, that's what we are looking for. Sense of safety, love, and to survive, that's in the body. It's a very strong, tendency to survive, right? So we say love, is not being found here. And then we don't feel safe just right here, That's survival. We feel threatened in our survival, right? Otherwise, if somebody else is not here. So we would need to, we would need to find that within first. You're looking for love, or a sense of safety out there. You would need to try to find that within yourself first. That will be a way of non-attaching yourself to others, right? Does that make sense, Rami, when I say that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, or kind
Yes,
of?
very much.
Yes. So in this moment, as we are sitting here, when you just notice your body the way it is, let's just take a moment for that. Okay? And with your eyes open, if you can, just notice your body. Beautiful, beautiful. What happens when you do that? What happens? What do you notice? Tell me.
More alive.
More alive. Beautiful, beautiful. So just notice that for me. Just notice that.
And joyous.
Joyous.
More happy.
Beautiful, more happy too. So let's just sit here for a moment in this, joyous, alive, because our little nervous system and brain just needs the time, to get used to that. It's not like, I mean, noticing is instantaneous, but to make it more into a habit, it takes time. But let's just sit here for a minute. Joyous, alive. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful, because that's what you really want, right? Would you say, Rami? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. And then out of habit, you see, we look for it out there, right? That's out of habit. Right? And that habit is going to be here for a while. We don't know another day or another year or who knows. But that's not your problem. Right? It's not your concern. You see? Your concern is, can I be here? If you can really put your energy into, let me just notice what is here. Let me just put my attention towards here. Let me just be here for a moment. Because that's what's going to give you fulfillment, you see. And then over time, that habit is going to lessen, right? Over time. Sometimes in times of stress, we still revert back to our habits and we start to crave, like I want it here, right? But as you do this, you see, over time, slowly, slowly, that habit is not going to be here. Because what we want in this, is fulfillment,
Yeah.
What we want is what is here already, right? That's what we want.
Yeah. That's great.
Yes, it's lovely, beautiful, beautiful. So what do you say, Rami Sweetheart? Would you be willing to do it like that?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's try it again for another moment.
I can see that I'm now trying to do it.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. It's the mind, you know, but it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
No.
I'll just
And
do it.
remember that the easier way is to go through the sensation in your body.
Ah.
The easier way. And also keep your eyes open, because when we close our eyes, we unconsciously kind of relate to the past again, you see? So especially in the beginning, keep your eyes open and just notice this beautiful. Just notice sensation of your body as it is, right? As we are not looking for anything. We just love it. We are just coming here. It's beautiful. So, what do you say? Would you be willing to do it like that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. And the smile, I like the smile. I mean, it's a smile. So, what do you say, sweetheart? What do you say?
You know, I'd say it's time to come to a close, Neelam.
Yes, let's do that.
My cat's been on my lap. She's just jumped off. She decided it's time.
It's time. It's time. Beautiful.
So, yeah, so I was wondering whether there's anything you'd like to say to end with.
So many things I could say, you know, but the most important always, you know, as what we were doing today all this time, is, you know, take the time to just be here. You know, take the time. And the way I teach it, you know, notice the sensation. Because when you notice sensation, that instantaneously, you know, it's closer to here. And then another thing, just come to one of our programs, you know, because that's what we do. We sit together, we learn the inquiry skills, we do what we have been doing here today a little bit, and many other things also. So just an invitation. Yes, and thank you again, Grace, for doing this. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Neelam. It's I can see you enjoyed the live interaction on the Hangout, so I'm happy that you know this worked for you. And also, I don't know whether everybody is aware. I forgot to mention that Neelam has environmental sensitivities and cannot give satsang as other teachers do in person. So, you know, meeting her online like this is probably the most alive and the most visual an experience that you can have. So I'm really happy.
In our teleconferences, that's really very alive too. You know, just the phone teleconference, that really is very, very, very alive too.
Yes, and I think you do have one coming up next Sunday. So if people would like to experience that, they could go to your website, neelam.org. And
yes, there's a schedule of things, yes.
Yes, put their name down for that. So thank you again, Neelam. You know, from the YouTube comments, I can see that people really appreciated your presence and your teachings. And you can follow that up on her website, which is neelam.org, O-R-G. And I just want to say thank you for being here, and also to remind you, if you appreciate these programs, these offerings, which are free, I always appreciate your donations, because it does involve a lot of my time and resources also to keep this going. So thank you for that. And we have a conversation coming up with Jeannie McGillivray from the UK on June 14th. It's not on the website yet, but it will be put up in the next few days. And so thank you for watching. Thank you again, Neelam.
Thank you so much, Grace.
And thank you to all who came onto the Hangout and made it such a live experience. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.